Hey, everybody. Welcome. I appreciate you being here on this, at least in Nashville, kind of a rainy, drizzly week. The afternoon today is just like gray. And so I'm kind of sleepy, but it's all right. I've got coffee and I'm going to wake up. So thanks for being here. If you're coming in and want to just give us a thumbs up or a like, that'd be awesome. Appreciate that. That always helps us with the Google gods and the Facebook gods. Appreciate it. As everybody's coming in, we're going to be talking about today. Taylor's on the road, by the way. He might be tuning in even as we speak. I bet I'll see a comment from him at some point. But they're driving today and trying to make good time, so he didn't want to pull over. And I told him not to pull over just because of the amount of time that they're having to travel over the next couple of days to get back to Nashville. So I told him I can handle this one. But we're talking about a great conversation today. We're talking about how marketing strategies are really turning toward more visual strategies. That means that when we talk about marketing, what in digital marketing, I'd say probably 8 times out of 10, what we're talking about is content marketing, right? Ways of getting in front of people who are searching for your products and services by putting content out that is interesting to those people who are your target and who are the people that you want to do business with. And by creating content or content marketing, you have a better shot at that. So, 4 years ago, there's like 500 million blogs in the world right now. There's 2 million podcasts right now. I remember when I started back in 2002, my first podcast, there were like 32,000 podcasts, I think, in the Apple iTunes podcast directory. So even then we thought, oh, wow, this is so competitive. Well, fast forward 20 years and it's a whole different animal as far as podcasting goes, with 2 million currently active and live podcasts. So the opportunities for multimedia is pretty great. So, but brands are understanding, companies are understanding, businesses are understanding that multimedia is something that works. So, in fact, about 50% of all businesses right now are investing more in the past couple of years in visual. Multimedia is another way of saying visual kinds of content for their marketing strategies. Why is that? Like, why 50% more investment or 50% of businesses investing in visuals? It's a jump. And a lot of it, I think, is because of the pandemic. When you have a lot of people sitting at home, not getting out, not doing their typical browsing that they were doing through department stores or big box retail stores, where a lot of shopping just kind of happens by incident, by being in the store and seeing something and going, oh, I need that, or, I have a use for that. That wasn't happening during the pandemic. And so the need to get in front of people with your message and to be able to, have access to the target market that you wanted, you needed to stand out. And print advertising or content advertising that was just heavy on articles and blog posts and written content wasn't slowing people down enough. They're stuck in their homes during the pandemic for extended periods of time. There's many distractions at home. And what marketers were realizing is that the best way to stay engaged with your audience was some kind of something that grabbed them, that was colorful, that was, had sound and motion and so video and audio and things like, let's just talk about what multimedia types we're really talking about when we talk about visual or multimedia. And this is kind of on the screen. This is from like the easiest things up to maybe the hardest things, at least for most people. So we'll start with just images, right? By putting images onto a page along with written content, and then optimizing those, you can really see good results and return. But we'll talk more about returns here in a minute. But images, a lot of times, it's a matter of grabbing your phone and snapping a picture. Okay, whether it's a picture of a product or a picture of a result of work that you've done, or before and after. This is before we got there, and this is after we finished, so that people, see a visual part of the story that you're describing on a particular page. So it's not terribly difficult to do anymore. It was definitely more difficult before every single cell phone and every single pocket had, 8 megapixel cameras and things like that capture really good images, just point and shoot. So grabbing images now is not a terribly hard thing to do. So next in that line would be infographics. This is a little bit harder to do. Sometimes it requires, a graphic designer or somebody who knows how to put together information in a clear and understandable way to tell a story. But an infographic really can be a phenomenal way of capturing people's interest. Most of the time, to fully consume all of the information on an infographic is going to take about the same amount of time as someone reading a 500-word article. So, but it's done in a very visual way, and that'll be interesting when we start talking about ROI here in a minute, of how infographics really do have a good return. So next is videos. That's definitely a harder thing to do because video is not just video, it's also audio most of the time. And both have to be fairly decent quality. Again, much easier to do now with current modern technology in everybody's pocket than it used to be when, back in the day. I mean, I remember, again, because of my podcast back in 2020 or 2002, in the audience that I was involved with, I was contacted by Nokia, and they wanted, you remember Nokia, that old cell phone company? Well, they contacted me with a phone that was brand new on the market, and they really thought it was going to be great for content creators to be able to shoot video while they were out and about. And so it was a cell phone. It was actually a flip phone that when it opened up, you could rotate the screen and hold it kind of like like a grip style camera, and have a screen and be able to video. And the resolution it shot in was 640 pixels by 480 pixels. It was, I think it might have been 24 frames per second, if any of this means anything to you. Essentially, it was barely even old television broadcast quality. It captured very small images, and the file sizes were huge for the day. And this was on a flip phone, and they sent me one to test for them and use it in my content creation for the podcasting that I was doing. And it was a game changer. I mean, to have a camera in my pocket at all times, and this was before the advent of the iPhone. But to have that kind of equipment with me at all times, and I could just pull it out and start a podcast. I mean, literally just turn it on and go. It was huge. And it was such a harbinger of what was to come. Of course, then the iPhone came out and had a camera, and the camera has gotten better every single generation since. And now the video cameras on these devices, Android and iPhones, are comparable to some of the broadcast quality cameras that you used to spend $3,000 to $5,000 to purchase, and that was the only way you could get that kind of audio quality or video quality. So it's really changed the game. So video is much less expensive than it used to be, and much easier to capture and do fairly decently. But it's still very involved, and there's a bit more of a learning curve to it than snapping a picture. So, and then lastly is podcasting. And podcasting is, it can be similar to what we're doing with this live stream. We consider this a podcast because we do turn this content into a recorded podcast after the fact, and it is available, in other places where podcasts are usually found. But it's content that is formatted around a subject usually, and you've got a commitment to regularly producing that content, because a podcast audience, when you go dark is what they call it, when you disappear for a little while, those people who are consuming your content generally go looking for other content to replace you, because they were in a habit of listening to you. You're no longer a part of their habit, so they're going to go find something else, and that can be it can be hard to get back on people's screens if you don't stay very diligent about a regular content production schedule. And podcasts are a beast that way. I mean, they're very consuming and time consuming, and you can continue to improve your game with a podcast by adding, if you're just doing audio podcasts, by adding better microphones, by adding better software recording, by adding better editing software to capture better things. And so there's, just on and on and on it goes. Then you decide to go from just an audio podcast to a video podcast. And now you're talking about video cameras and lighting and, resolution, screen resolution, all these things that get pretty complicated. So, but brands are realizing, companies are realizing that to make investments in these kinds of multimedia is paying off. And they wouldn't be spending this kind of money if they weren't seeing a return on their investment. And it does cost some money, okay? To get into this and do it well, to start producing multimedia as part of your marketing strategy, is something that takes some money. But I just want to remind people, this is Taylor talking here, because he said it to me, and I went, oh yeah, that's true. How much did you used to spend on YellowPages advertising, even just 5-6 years ago? For many businesses, home service businesses, that was a principal source of new leads. That was a principal source of making the phone ring. And we would talk to people regularly who were spending upwards of $10,000 a month to be in the YellowPages in their area. That's usually like a main, major YellowPage ad, and then maybe smaller ads in other YellowPages in the surrounding area, depending on what kind of geographic area you live in. But $10,000 a month just for YellowPages advertising, that's crazy. And essentially, for that kind of budget, you take 1 month of YellowPage kind of spending and put that toward video production, and you've got content that can last you 12 to 18 months. So it really isn't the kind of expense that you think it might be when you consider historically what you're accustomed to spending to make the phone ring. And it can have similar effects in the overall strategy of your marketing, because it can be used in so many places. So let's talk about that. The fact that it can be produced once, but then reused in so many different ways. I mean, we regularly take video and slice and dice it in different ways for different purposes and share that out in different places. So one piece of content might become 5 or 6 pieces of content, and for different purposes in different places. So there's a lot that can be done if you think about how you want to develop your multimedia marketing strategy by leveraging some just super simple techniques. By super simple techniques, I mean things like doing ordered lists, numbered lists of things, like doing a podcast or a video that says the top 3 things that you need to know about X topic, right? The top 3 or the top 5 mistakes that customers make, or whatever. So by identifying kind of a series of points that you're going to make, every one of those points then becomes a standalone piece of content that you can use in other places. So recycling, reusing, producing once, and cutting it up and using it in different places is a great strategy for extending the life of that content, for putting it in more places and getting a lot more bang for the buck in terms of cost. So let's talk about return on that investment. Quite simply, SEO, search engine optimization, it used to be all about text on the page. That was the only thing that Google understood 10, 12 years ago. Now it's not at all the only thing that Google understands. And Google has gotten really good with its technology to be able to understand audio and even moving pictures, to be able to understand that, oh, that's a scene set in front of the Eiffel Tower in Paris, or that's this kind of thing. So it's starting to recognize that as well, but it's doing a really good job of indexing audio content from videos. And you'll see this a lot of times, like when you do a search in Google, and some of the top searches, or search results rather, are YouTube videos. And of course, Google owns YouTube, but Google crawls all of the videos and indexes the content in these videos to make it more searchable for returning in search results. And it does it all the time. In fact, you guys might not know this. One of the biggest search categories in Google that relates to home services is DIY content, like people who are trying to troubleshoot a problem and figure out how to fix it, or they have a problem and don't know what it is, and they're looking for examples of this problem so that they know what to even call it before they call a service company to ask for help and describe the problem. So it's a huge opportunity. In fact, one of the people I think that has done one of the best jobs I've ever seen is Clay Lamb in the chimney services industry. He owns American Chimney in Cincinnati, but he has spent years putting together just incredibly good and precise and succinct content, video content, all about typical chimney problems, and chimney, fireplace, stove, any problems regarding chimney systems. He's pretty much got at least one video about that subject. Now, it's not truly DIY. He's not teaching people how to do their own service work, but he's describing the problem in great detail and why it's important to pay attention to, so that the average consumer feels better educated, which builds trust. And as a result of having built that trust, who are they going to call when they need that service performed? So the entire thing that he put together with probably hundreds of videos. I've watched quite a few of them, but I stopped counting at some point because there were just so many. But all of those videos he put together and called it Ask the Chimney Sweep. And it was brilliant. And it still gets him tens of thousands of watches on YouTube. And that content is available, and it generates business. Let me tell you, it generates business. So, when you're thinking about how that content might produce a result, it is not at all unimportant to consider how it impacts your search and search efforts with SEO. So somebody out there in our company, I don't know who, is saying work smarter, not harder. Yeah, that goes to the slice and dice part, right? Build it once and reuse it as many times as you can. It becomes a tool at that point, right? That's the very definition of a tool, is something you create to use to solve problems over and over and over again, to get a result over and over and over again. So that's a great comment. Appreciate that. All right, so we've looked at SEO and how images and video can be a ranking factor for content on your websites. What about this? Just think about this question for a second. I mean, if you were on a page, if you were doing a search for a solution to something, and you went to a website that had just this huge block of content. I mean, just text, paragraph after paragraph after paragraph, all the way down. So you think, wow, it seems like they really know what they're talking about, but you click out of it anyway, and you go back to Google, and the next result you click on has some content on it, but there's also a video right up there at the top. Now, which one of those two would you probably engage with first, right? Now, it could be that you go and you read the long article, but I almost can guarantee that the majority of us are going to engage with that video first. And the reason is because if we can get what we need out of a video, out of audio visual presentations of the content, then we're already where we need to be without having to spend a much longer amount of time reading through a long article. And our alertness, our engagement with video is much better. So it becomes a real advantage there. So when your user is faced with getting information, your visitor, your customer, is faced with getting the information that they need to solve their problem, and you're just giving them a big block of text and your competitor is giving them a video, it could be that a lot of people are simply going with your competitor because they prefer the format of the content that your competitor is presenting them. So something that's important to consider. And that's all about engagement. It's all about engagement being a ranking factor as well. Google knows when videos get clicked on websites. Google knows when people spend 3 times the amount of time on a web page that has a video than they do on pages that don't have video. So that means that Google understands this content on this page, this video that people are consuming, is important, and it belongs in our search results ahead of other content. So it can be great. But not only that, but when you get that ranking boost from SEO because of better engagement, right? Better engagement leads to better SEO, better ranking. When you get more ranking, you're getting more opportunities for phone calls. And because of the nature of the video content, if it's done well with a call to action, then your call conversions on that video can be much higher than just simply a page full of text. So this is why during the pandemic, people were like, we've got to engage better. We've got to, people are at home and there's so many distractions right now. We need to get on their radar and keep their attention focused on what we're trying to do. And video was a very compelling way to do that. Not to mention that in order to compete with some of the social media that's out there that is nothing but video. I mean, let's talk about that for a minute. Social media engagement. When you have created videos like those top 5 videos that I just talked about, when you create that kind of content and you're putting it out and you're slicing and dicing it, you've got point 1 becomes its own little video and it's 23 seconds long. Guess what's perfect for that, right? Facebook Shorts, TikTok. Now you've got bite-sized consumable pieces of content specifically about the kinds of things that you do that is going to be engaging with people who are on those platforms looking for short form content, video content. And people will scroll. I mean, it's no secret. TikTok is the #1 most engaging social media platform ever. That's every metric that we've seen so far. It has outperformed YouTube. It has outperformed Facebook. It has outperformed any number, Twitter, any number of the other ones that have sprung up and sort of fizzled, because people love the short form kind of content, and TikTok delivers it over and over and over again. So much so that other platforms such as YouTube, such as Facebook, have scrambled to improve the odds of keeping people engaged on their platforms by doing similar kinds of things and featuring shorter form content up front. So social media is a great place to share images, a great place to share infographics. People love to share good information that's densely packed. And an infographic is designed just to be that, good information, densely packed in a very consumable and interesting way. So by creating infographics and sharing that on social media, what you're doing, you're just increasing the number of places that your company is present, where people have a likelihood of stumbling across what you have to offer, either because they're searching on that platform for content like that, or because, you know, the stream, like Facebook stream, is just putting stuff in front of them, and one day there it is, or YouTube or whatever, TikTok, and suddenly there your content is, and that becomes their first introduction to you. So there's no question that multimedia content in social media, it's not the future, guys. It's almost the past. I mean, but it's the present too. I mean, but it's been happening now for a while. That shift is over. We are in the age of multimedia social media, and there is almost no such thing as social media that isn't multimedia now. Yep, Taylor is saying, so he is listening. Hi, Taylor. Hope you're driving safe. He says you need both video and text. Absolutely. So I was going to talk a little bit about some strategies that you can use to get more out of, right? It's that recycle, reuse, or produce once and reuse. One of the most brilliant things you can do with any video content is have a service transcribe that video for you. So all of that spoken word content inside the video now becomes a transcript, and it becomes text on the page underneath the video. So you're doing what? You're giving options to your visitor, who is maybe watching the video, but they process things better when they read it. So now you've got a full transcript of the video that they can either read along with while the video is playing, or read it if maybe watching the video at that moment is inappropriate because they're in a surrounding that's quiet and they don't have earbuds, you know, but now they can read that transcription and get everything that the video has for them just right there. But it also becomes indexable by Google, and very easily indexable by Google. I mean, from what I understand, Google will index video content for the audio portion of it, even without a transcript on the page. But, Taylor talked about last week, this idea of the crawl budget. Google's only going to spend so much time on every page in order to understand what the content is. And it can consume text in a fraction of a second. But consuming video takes, if it's a 3-minute video, it's going to take Google 3 minutes to consume that content because it only plays at, the speed it plays, and Google is listening and doing the hard work of crunching that information to get the audio out of it and turn that into words and index that. So yes, absolutely necessary or a good idea to have both. But you can do this in stages. You can create really good video content, put it on a page, and later, right, because we want to keep new, fresh content on web pages all the time, later, then come back and add the transcript to the same page. And now that's an update to the page, and Google comes back and crawls it and sees, oh, cool, new content. So that can be a great strategy. You don't have to put something on the web page and then also add all of the, transcripts and everything else all in one fell swoop. You can stage it out and do it that way, and it really does work well. So good point, Taylor. Thank you. All right, if you have any questions or anything, feel free to ask away. We're closing in on the time for this particular one, but the questions, whether I have time to answer them today or in the future, we'll certainly cover any of those questions in upcoming episodes, and especially during our Q&A monthly episodes that we do. So feel free to ask questions. I will say, I think everybody should consider a kind of multimedia content that is sustainable for you. So I'll go back to this slide where we talked about the different kinds of multimedia. Some of you, with very little effort, could capture really good images for your company on a regular basis and start creating and banking a library of images that can be used throughout your website. It could be shared on social media. And that wouldn't be a hard thing for you to do. Others who enjoy being in front of a camera, who like taking videos, and maybe have a technician who's really good in front of a camera, and you want to just, when you have an interesting job that technician is doing, jump out to the job site and videotape a little bit of it so that person gets to show off for your company as a member of your company. It's a good look for your company, but it's also really good information for people who are watching that video later. it might not be hard at all for you to commit to something like that. Some of you love to play with Canva and graphic design and things like that, who could take some of the more interest-based or information-based concepts in your line of work and present those in really interesting and compelling ways as infographics. And they get shared a lot. And then some of you just like to do the gluttons for punishment like Taylor and I are, and you like doing podcasts and you think that this might be fun. It is fun. I really enjoy doing this. I really enjoy being able to do things that people, that are helpful to people and helps to solve their problems. And, of course, we always hope that enhances our business, and we do it for SEO reasons and everything else too. Jeremy has a great question here. Can you put too many videos on one page? Yeah, you can. Good idea when it comes to content is keep a page like a silo about one particular topic. And if your videos are about a lot of different topics, a lot of different services, for example, and all of those topics are mixed up on one page, Google may not understand what that page is about. And if it can't understand what a page is about, guess what? It doesn't show up in search results very well. So it's a great idea to keep your content focused on one service or one concept, one topic, one idea, and then, the content, the written content on that page, the images on that page, as well as any video on that page, all relate somehow to that one topic, if that helps. It's a great question. All right, so we're going to wrap it up there, and thank everybody for being on. Appreciate it. Make sure you give us a thumbs up or a heart or a like on whatever channel you're on, just to help us promote this with other people. That always matters, and I appreciate your comments today as well. We're going to see you next week when we are talking about, what's new with Facebook ads, and talking about visual. Facebook ads, there's some things there that I think are going to be really interesting, but our own Dave Scribani is going to be on. Dave is just really working hard in our business to help us up our game with Google ads, with Facebook, with social media, advertising, as well as the organic. And he's just bringing a lot to the table. So it's going to be a great conversation with Dave. Looking forward to having him on. Appreciate him being willing to do that. And so make sure you join us next time to talk about Facebook ads and all those related topics. So thanks everybody for being here. Just a reminder, Facebook or Spark Live can be found on Facebook. It can be found on YouTube. It can be found after the fact, after we record it, on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, anywhere that you consume fine podcasts. So check us out there. Appreciate it, everyone. Thanks for being here.